Hi, I'm Coach Corey Wayne, and this is my video coaching newsletter. And the topic of today's newsletter is going to be move forward together or walk away. I'm sure a lot of people are pretty fucking excited about the chair, just for you, because I know you care. I've got an email here from a guy who he met this woman a year ago, long distance. He's in California, she's in New York City. And it's obvious, once I go through his email, you'll see, is that it looks like he was a little too much of a nice guy, acted a little too much like a friend when they hung out the first time. He ended up going back a second time, and then it wasn't until things went a little sideways, because he basically, the second time they got together, he went from, hey, let's hang out, to, hey, let's have a long distance relationship. So he kind of put the cart before the horse. And so like a whole year later, it sounds like they've only hooked up once, and that was in March when he happened to be in town. And he just found my work about 4 months ago, so obviously back the last time he was there, he kind of changed his approach, and that's what led to him hooking up with her. But I mean, we're middle of July now, and this was March, so we're talking 4 months have gone by, and nothing's really progressed with it. And so he's like, is it possible to move forward together with this girl, or should I just walk away? So I'm going to point out, as I go through this, some things that he's doing wrong to try to drive her away a little bit, because he's putting that cart before the horse. And having been somebody who's had multiple long-distance relationships with women that live on different continents, I'm going to go through, because there's some women that make great candidates for that, and there's others that don't, and I'll explain that in a minute, because obviously they're not spending much time together. And at the end of the day, if you're going to date somebody long distance, at some point somebody's going to have to move. And if you're going to date somebody long distance, you've got to be able to be in a situation where you can actually get together in person, because otherwise you're just kind of virtual acquaintances, and that ain't any fun. And you'll see this guy's a little guilty of projecting his fantasy of what he wants onto this girl. It looks like he's got a little bit of one-itis going on. The myth of the one, to borrow a phrase from the video that I did several years ago on that. You can Google Corey Wayne, the myth of the one, if you're so inclined. But this guy's kind of fallen under that. So I got a quote that I wrote in this topic, and we're going to go through the email, because what's his fundamental problem here is that he got obviously emotionally invested in things, and that's kind of clouded his judgment and got in the way of him really understanding the fundamentals of what it takes to create attraction and attract this woman to him, so she wants to spend more and more time together, instead of kind of, after a whole year, it's not really, I mean, they hooked up one time, so it's not progressed. And when your personal life is on hold, and the person that you care about's on the other side of the country, or maybe on another continent, it sucks as the months go by and you don't even get to see one another. Plus, it doesn't look like she's making a whole lot of effort to move things along. So let's go through the quote that I wrote, and then we'll go through his email. The quote says, "The object of romance is not a relationship. The object of romance is to have fun together. Having fun together leads to good feelings and an increase in sexual attraction. Increasing sexual attraction leads to a sharing of each other's bodies and souls. Then separation and exploring freedom happens again, until a mutual desire draws them together once more. A relationship happens as a natural byproduct of continuous and perpetual hanging out, having fun, and hooking up. The masculine one provides the logistics, leadership, planning, and execution of dates, while the feminine one opens up to receive love and is preoccupied with bonding, connecting, commitments, and relationship labels that lead to a sense of security and comfort." So the whole idea with the quote on this one is it's kind of like the philosophy of how this guy should be approaching, because he's approaching it from the perspective of one of trying to force things, and you'll see it's not going real well for him. And for guy, I mean, you think about it, everything you see on TV and the movies is just pursue, 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 drag her kicking and screaming to the altar, and hopefully you'll convince her to marry you, and you'll live happily ever after. And when you see that same theme so many times growing up, and it's just in our culture now, and then you try to do it in the real world, women just run from you. And you'll see there's kind of, or it just gets in limbo like this poor guy's in. So he says, "Hey coach, I love and appreciate what you do. I've read the book 3 times in the last 4 months, and I'm continuing the march to 10 times. Repetition is the mother of skill, so let's get straight to it. I developed strong feelings for a girl 3,000 miles away. Well, remember, people buy things, or people for that matter, based upon emotion, and they use logic and reason to justify their purchase. So way before this guy ever found out about my work, he had already kind of sold himself on this woman and what she meant for his life. So he's already kind of got a built-in bias when it comes to this girl, and that's going to get in the way of him being able to see reality for what it really is. I'm in California and she's in New York. We met a year ago in New York City. The first time we met turned into a 4-hour hangout. 4 hours. We hung out a couple more times in New York City and had a blast together. Notice something missing? Let me go a little further. Then a week later, my cousin got married in D.C., and we hung out for the entire wedding, danced the night away, and stayed in touch for the next couple of months until my next trip to New York City. I don't hear any mention of kissing, any going out on dates, no hanging out, having fun, and hooking up. Obviously, this is before he knew about my book and my work. The White Walkers! Oh, as a matter of fact, did you watch the season premiere of Game of Thrones? I'm sure a lot of you did. Pretty good. Admittedly, I made the wrong decision, and on that second trip, I told her too quickly that I wanted to try the long distance thing and start visiting each other. So you went from just kind of hanging out as buddies and pals. Again, I had nothing about any kind of physical kissing or moving things along. And then you go right from that to, hey, let's do a long distance relationship. Women fall in love slowly over time. Instead of focusing on creating an opportunity for sex to happen, he's like, just like you see in the movies and TV, hey, let's just go right for the relationship. Let's just cut all the bullshit out of the way, and hey, let's be in a relationship, even though we haven't been on a date or kissed or anything yet. In short, I mean, that's what happens in the movies all the time, right? In short, she reciprocated her feelings equally, so he says, or tells himself, but she was not down with exploring a long-distance relationship. Yeah, because you jumped right into basically saying, hey, you need to give up your freedom and just be in a relationship with me. You must love in such a way that the person you love feels free. So the mistake is, it's not her idea. She goes from like barely knowing this guy to, hey, I want to lock you down to a commitment. Never going to end well. It doesn't work that way in the real world. She is risk-averse. Notice the logic and reason that remember, people will act consistently with how they view themselves to be, whether the view is accurate or not. So he's continuing to act consistently with how he has told himself that this fantasy relationship is supposed to be. So in other words, the reason why they're not together in a relationship is because she's risk-averse and very conservative. So he tells himself. Attraction level, when a woman is head over heels in love with a guy, she'll change her religion, she'll leave her family, she'll even leave her kids. I mean, how many times have you seen over the years a woman flying a helicopter or something in, or being a getaway person for a boyfriend that's in prison or whatever? Well, I'm not afraid of risk myself, but after her rejection, I stepped back for a while and we kept in touch minimally. So it's probably what that really means is he stayed in touch with her to the point where he stayed in touch too much and it just didn't go anywhere other than beyond friendship. Fast forward to March of 2017. I made another trip to New York City. Keep in mind, this is after he read my book. Because what happened was he extended his gift, which is the greatest gift you can give anybody, which is the gift of your time. And she was like, eh. So if he's going to New York, he's not going there for her. She had her chance. She said, I'm not interested. Psst, pound sand. But obviously you're still connected on social media. So he's living his life. You want somebody that would jump fences to be with you, not somebody that's sitting on the fence, and she just really could have cared less. So he did the right thing by just going and enjoying his life. Fast forward to March 2017, I made another trip to New York City to meet up with some old friends. I came back with a better game plan. I didn't tell her I was coming, and she only found out because if he was to call her and tell her or to send her a message, he's still trying to force something. And again, because it's not her idea, it probably would, oh, I'm busy, sorry, maybe next time. She only found out because she saw on Facebook that I was in New York City. She immediately reached out to me because she's wondering, Why didn't he get in touch? This guy was always trying to get in a relationship with me, and now he comes to New York, doesn't even get in touch with me. Did he meet somebody else? Does he have a girlfriend? Did he find a new toy? She immediately reached out to me, was so excited that I was in town, and told me to let her know when we could get together. Look at that. That's her idea. So she definitely wants to get together. So if it's her idea to get together, the odds are pretty damn good that she's going to make it easy for that to happen. Whereas before, she was, I remained centered, waited a couple of days, and planned a fun date in her city. She loved it. We had a blast and hooked up. He created an opportunity for sex to happen. Good job. We went out one more time before I left. This time, I didn't give her any speech about my feelings or ask for anything. Well, you already gave her something. The hot beef injection, obviously. The gift that you gave her was the gift of your time. So you did the right thing. Your job, just like I said in the quote, your job is to create the opportunity for sex to happen. As far as the relationship stuff, it's the woman's department. Way too soon, because it takes time for those feelings to develop over many weeks and months. Usually 7 weeks, if you follow exactly the plan that's in the book. And for those of you that haven't read the book, you can go to my website, subscribe to the newsletter, and read it now. Or you can subscribe to a free Audible trial, and you can get it for free. And if you hate it, you say, I can't stand that fucking shaved head dude's voice. I want a different book. They'll let you exchange it for something else. So either way, you're going to get the information, and you only pay for it when you like it. And if you don't, no harm, no foul. I mean, that's as low risk as you can get. The only thing you're going to risk is your time and your email address if you're going through my website. But obviously, if you're doing the Audible, it's pretty easy, man. I was determined not to make the same mistake twice. Yeah, because you experience a lot of pain and a lot of blue balls for a year. You still got her, dude. The problem now is, where do I go from here? Well, you don't go anywhere except looking to create, because you got to focus on your outcome, right? If your outcome is you want a girlfriend or a relationship or somebody to live happily ever after with, because you're thinking this is like your dream girl, you focus on creating the conditions where you can meet somebody that's thinking the same things. This woman just happens to be a possibility who went cold on you a year ago. So it's got to be her idea. Remember, she's the one that pushed you away, so therefore, per 7 Principles Get Next Back, it's got to be her idea to rekindle things. And you don't cause her for it to be her idea to rekindle things unless you let her come to you. A lot of guys in this situation, they think, oh great, now I'm going to go right back, I'm going to go to pursue her, now I got my chance. And it's typically what guys do, and if I was a betting man, I'd say probably that's what happened. In this case, you would have hung out, had fun, and hooked up, and you would have said, hey, get in touch with me, you should come visit me sometime out in California when you head back. And then don't call her, don't text her, don't do anything. Remember, she's got to earn another chance with you, not the other way around. This was the woman who was treating you like a second-class citizen. She reached out to you, and on top of that, she brought up getting together. So once she started that process, let her do it. You already tried over pursuing, and it got you blown off. And I suspect that's probably what happened. He figured he hooked up, and he went right back to doing what he was doing initially. Which is why here we are 4 months later, and it's not really progressed. I'm 35, she's 31, and we want all the same things in life. Again, part of the logic, and oh yeah, of course you want the same things. We always look at what people do. That's the only thing that matters. What do they do? Not what they say. At this age, it feels like there is more at stake. It's just another girl, dude. I don't want to let this one go. Well, that's part of your problem, because you have an unhealthy attachment. You're not zen enough with this girl, if you will. You're trying to force things. And if you look at your past history with her over the past year, forcing it, where has it gotten you? I mean, you hooked up with her once, and that was 4 months ago. We both know that something is real here. But she's afraid to act on it, and I'm not. It's not that she's afraid to act on it, you're trying to force it. And since it's not her idea, that's obviously why you haven't seen her since then. And one thing that's important, and I alluded to this in the beginning of the video, is that the women I've dated long distance for any period of time, years, is that if you're going to date somebody, especially for several years, or even a matter of 6 months, a year, whatever it happens to be, you're gonna have to spend time together in person. And ideally, like in the relationships that I've had, the women had one had her own business, another one she was a personal trainer, very successful. She was able to build her schedule the way she wanted. If she wanted to take time off, she was able to hop on a plane and come stay with me for 3-4 months at a time. So that's something that's real key. But if you got somebody that works in the real world and they get like 2 weeks off a year or something like that, you're going to resort to seeing each other maybe in the weekends. And that gets to be a real pain in the ass. In my cases, I was single, we met, it was like love at first sight, and we were just always together. And they would come and visit and stay with me, or I'd go and stay there. But the women I've dated long distance, the best logistically is where, especially like if they own their own business, or maybe they work remotely. Maybe they just need a laptop and an internet connection. Because if you got somebody that's got a regular job and a place where they have to go work and they get a week or two off a year, you're not going to see each other very much. You can be, so it's, for the most part, they're going to be kind of like a virtual acquaintance, and that's not really fulfilling. But the reality is, if you're going to stay together long term, especially if in the States, if you're like from the UK, like my English girlfriend, she was only allowed to stay for 90 days at a time, and then she had to go back. But it's like the longer you date and the more she comes to visit you without getting married or anything like that, the more she gets scrutinized, because immigration's looking at it thinking, are you coming over here working illegally? And they want to obviously stop that. Because it's up to the immigration and customs person. They can say, you know what, you've been over here too much, so we're not letting you in this time. So there's always that. Especially you go a month or two without seeing each other and you're waiting at the airport outside of customs for your girl to show up. And you don't know whether or not she's going to get through. Those are the ideal situations. But like I said, if you got somebody, or maybe you work where you can only get a week off for a year, so you're not going to see each other very much. Like in this case, they're on different coasts, so you're like a 4-hour plane ride each way. So if you leave on a Friday night after work, you get there at midnight, and then you're leaving Sunday night to go back. I mean, that just gets really old after a while, and expensive for that matter. She's everything I'm looking for in a woman, and we really haven't spent that much time with her, dude. We're talking like 3 trips. Only one time of hooking up. You don't know what she's like when she gets in a bad mood or she's had a bad day. You just haven't been around her that much. So you can't really say that. She might have some things you really like, but you got to spend time in person to know somebody. She's everything I'm looking for in a woman. I generally feel happy when I'm with her. I've never spoken this way about another person. At the end of the day, that doesn't matter. It's not important. What's important is, what does she do? How does she feel about you? Which is why it's so hard to just let this one go. You got to let women come to you, dude. I talk about that in the book. In this particular case, your pursuit of her is over forever. You got to look at it as she's got to earn another chance with you, not the other way around. And since you've already been there 3 times, it's time for her to come see you. And if she doesn't want to come see you, then it's kind of like, what's the point? So if she reaches out to you and you invite her to come see you and she's like, I can't, or I can't afford it, or whatever it happens to be, then you say, well, if you ever want to come see me, get in touch. You change your mind. And just leave it at that. And you're only going to ask twice. Just write out of 7 Principles Get an Expect. You'll only ask twice when she reaches out first. And if still after asking her twice, she still won't make plans, still won't buy a ticket to come see you, then you're just wasting your time at that point. And then from that point on, you're just going to keep any phone calls at 2 to 3 minutes, and then you're going to bolt. Any texting, Snapchatting, WhatsApp, whatever, 2 to 3 messages max, and then you're going to say, hey, been great hearing from you, but I got to run. Keep in touch. And then 1 of 2 things will happen. She'll either bring up getting together, or she'll stop calling altogether. She's never been to California, so I'm thinking about inviting her to visit. Yeah, I mean, she needs to come see you. I would say at least for the next 2 visits, because you want to kind of keep it even, where sometimes you go see her, the next time she comes see you, but in this case you've done all the traveling. If she says yes, then great, and if she says no, then I think it's time to let her go, and I need to verbally tell her that so she knows it's real and get on my own closure. All in all, the best negotiating position is being able to walk away and mean it. Like I said, At the point you're at in this relationship or this romance negotiation, if you will, because it's not really a relationship, the point where you are in this romance negotiation is she's got to come see you. And if she's not willing to come see you, then it's wasting your time. If she brings up, well, why don't you come see me? I'll come see you next time. Just say, well, I've already been out there 3 times. So, I mean, if you really like me, I want to see a mutual effort. I want to see you make the effort. At the end of the day, if she's not willing to come see you, then give me a call if you change your mind. So my questions are, what is the best way to tell her that I want her to come visit? Wait for her to reach out. Stop pursuing this girl. It sounds like probably once a month you're reaching out because you're figuring, hey, we hooked up 4 months ago. Maybe she'll be ready this month. But the problem is, what happened was you hooked up one time by following what my book teaches, and it sounds like because you hooked up, you got a little bit of the punani, you came back, and you went right back to the old strategy that was not working. And so now you're getting the same results. And as they say, if you continue to do what you've always got, or if you continue to do what you've always done, you'll continue to get what you've always got. And that's unfortunately what's happened in your case. You're continuing to get blue balls, basically. Any other advice? Read my book and date other women. Let her do 100% of the calling, texting, pursuing, and make dates. She's got to come see you, or just let it go. I would treat her like she's a low probability of success, as if you're probably not going to see her again. But if you do, hey, be nice. You extend your invitation. It's up to her to hop on a plane and come see you. You'll be happily go pick her up at the airport. And if not, well, like I said, you got to get some other options, dude, because you're just totally focused on this girl, and you've created unhealthy attachment to somebody who, quite frankly, she's not shown that she's willing to make you a priority in her life. I mean, you went to see her 3 fucking times. I mean, it's obviously the first time you were there for other reasons, but you met there. But you've been back twice because of her. Well, it's the 3rd time wasn't, but you know what I mean. You've traveled to her city 3 times. It's time for her to reciprocate. If she doesn't reciprocate, she's out. So if you'd like to get my help personally, you can go to my website, click the products tab at the top of your screen, and book whatever coaching option works for you. And I will talk to you soon.